So CAC, customer acquisition cost, is essentially your entire sales and marketing team, anything that works with a customer, including your salary, to be able to get customers, right? And so I'll ask shops this quite a bit. I go like, do you know how many times a year your customer orders from you? Most people are like, maybe a couple times. It's like, you should know that number, because if you know your average order value, that's the average, if you do 100 jobs a year for $100,000, you know that every job's worth $1,000 to you. You should know how many times a customer orders from you on average. It could be 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, whatever. You take, basically see how many times customers order from you and get an average of it. Uh, and then you should know your net profit, right? And so the example is, if a customer on average orders from you 3 times a year, and the average customer stays with you for, call it, 5 years, over the lifetime value of that customer, they're going to bring, $15,000 to you, whatever. If your net profit is 10%, you know that that customer is worth $1,500 of profit to you, or on a yearly basis, it's worth $300 a year. And
Mm-hmm.
so the question you would ask yourself is, how much are you willing to pay to get $300?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, okay, do I want to pay 50%, 20%? What do I want to pay for that? And that's a really low example. Like, I bet you it's a lot higher as shops calculate it. But if you know those three numbers, you have your black box, and you can now start to create a model.
So let's say you've got your model built out, it's forecasted, you spend time in stage 2 and stage 3 now with the CFO or fractional CFO. Let's talk about executing. Going back to Jan Feb, what's the next step?
Okay. So we have our black box, we know our accounting. Now we have to recognize that growth is going to cost money. And so you have to go to the well and figure out where you're going to get that money to fuel growth. And what I mean by that is, you're either hiring employees, right? You're hiring a sales team. Maybe you're hiring a sales coach. Maybe you're investing in a marketing agency. Maybe you're hiring marketing people, right? That's what I mean by, growth will cost money. And the interesting thing about the industry is, our industry will spend more money on new presses and everything inside their doors before thinking about sales. Blows my mind, right? They'll invest $100,000 on a press, but not $100,000 in sales, which is just funny. So I think something that we do, and we're very growth minded, is I'm always investing in sales first, and I'm investing in production last, meaning I will
I
outsource at all
like that.
costs.
Why do you think that
And
is,
so
by the
actually,
way?
because shop owners are not salespeople, they're screen printers, right? And they want to make screen printing easier for them and more efficient. And a lot of shops will say, when I got my first auto, then my business blew up. Well, it's because your job got easier, obviously, and you had more time. But it really should be the opposite. We're really, really fortunate that that happens. So yeah. So then we realized, okay, what is it going to take to grow? Well, I'm going to need one guy that's going to have to go knock on doors, and that one guy could cost $100,000 a year. Let's just call it, after commission and all that stuff. So I look and say, okay, can I afford that? Can I afford $10,000 a month? And how long is it going to take for him to start paying himself off? Right. And so that's kind of the same example of, if I bought a press and I didn't have any money to feed it, there is a payback period to sales, right? A typical salesperson won't pay themselves off in the first 3 or 4 months, right? And you have to really look at it long tail and say, I'm going to burn money or take out of my profits because I have to ramp this person up, right? Bruce, what about you
No,
guys at
I feel
Printavo?
like that's the beauty of the sales and marketing hires, though, because they are so measurable. And I do think that when people buy the equipment, whether if they finance it, that lights the fire under them too, because they see the payment and they're like, oh shit, like I gotta get this dude, and that really does it. But I think the same, actually, you're right. It applies to the sales and marketing team too. Hey, look, we need X leads coming in. We need Y traffic. We need, Z sales, whatever it is. But you can actually put this into Excel and really map it out. I mean, for the first 12 months of a new sales hire, we said there's a ramp up, like you said, of 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, whatever it is, from zero to their quota goal, their ideal 100% utilization of quota goal. And maybe they're always at 80% of that goal, and then you're happy. But there's a ramp up period. And you can tell by the amount of sales they bring in and the profitability of those sales that you bring in when that person's salary is essentially paid off, and then you're playing with house money afterwards. And that payback period could be 8 months, it could be 12 months, it could be 6 months. But if you have that calculated in, and I honestly would share it with the sales rep, I'd say, look, hey, we built out this goal. This is how you'll be able to ramp up. This is achievable. This is what you can do. Somebody else has done it, or I've done it, or whatever. We're all on the same page. Because the flip side, unfortunately, is not everyone's going to make it in that role in any of the departments. And so now we're able to clearly say, hey, look, like last month was a big miss. Let's talk about this. Why? How do I be able to help you? Okay, second month. Okay, wow. We really missed this again. Is this a good fit? Because if not, maybe we could find another fit here, or part ways. Maybe this is just not the right mesh between us two, and then move on and find someone else that can be a good fit. But anyway, I love the predictability of creating that roadmap for them, for us to be able to work together so they can achieve it.
Right. And to be clear, I did not do this myself, right? Like we hired Kevin Baumgart to do it. Kevin's obviously a close friend of ours. Kind of like that fractional CFO that I talked about. We were totally okay. If we were going to grow our business from 5 million to 10 million, it's going to go from 10 to 20. I am totally okay paying a premium for the best sales coach to teach me how to model that out, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so like now I have my numbers. Now I have my sales coach. It's almost like I have a little board around me, is the best way to put it. Um, and I have all these crazy ideas, and I don't know if we can execute them or not. But I'll take these ideas to everyone and say, "Does this model? Does this work? Does it jive? Do you think we could do this?" And they'll say, "Go, you can, you can't. Watch out for this or this or this." Right. And so, you know, uh, like if you want to grow your business aggressively, you personally, it's going to be very hard for you to do it consistently if you are the owner. And so, one of the big points that I'll make is, I remember hiring my first full time salesperson, second full time salesperson. Now, we say that a salesperson or an account manager should oversee about $1 million in the business, give or take, right? And so we have a ratio, and we know that our sales team feeds the rest of the company, whether you manage students, whether you manage national accounts on Shopify, whether you manage athletes. There's a certain ratio that we have of headcount to revenue, and that's another thing that you'll start to tune in. And so that's like a really, really important aspect of the business, is trying to remove yourself from the sales process. You want to be involved, but if you can put a person on it and it's a repeatable task, then it's actually measurable and scalable.